For me, I want to talk about peak performance. And I want to talk about you as not a salesperson, but as a dream maker. You're in the business of making dreams come true. And my job as a professional coach is to help people's personal dreams come true. So for me, today is about a conversation among dream makers. And being a dream maker is tough business because we don't get to rest on yesterday's laurels. We don't get to rest on what we did last month. I think it's amazing that you track yourselves every month, because what you're seeing is peak performers can't rest on what they did last month. It's about this month, because every day somebody's coming in here looking for you to fulfill a dream. And how are you going to do that? And so I want to talk about peak performance. And peak performance for dream makers includes two things. It includes a mindset and a skill set. Clear to me, you guys, most of you have the skill set, but I want to talk about that briefly anyway. But before I jump into skill set, I want to talk about what I learned in my PhD program. By a fluke, twist of fate, I actually picked a dissertation topic that couldn't be written on because a bunch of lawyers wouldn't give me the information I needed. So what happened is my professor said, why don't you write about systems thinking? Will you approve it now? Yes, we'll approve it now. Okay, I'll write about it. So I started studying systems thinking, and then there's a great book called The Fifth Discipline by Peter Senge. Somebody shaking their head who's familiar with it. And what Peter Senge says is that actually everything is a system, okay? We as humans think in linear, okay, time, all right? And what he says is that's actually wrong. Everything is a circle. All right? And what you do up here impacts here, and what you do here impacts here. And so there's a couple of things you need to know about a system. First of all, we all live in them. I was born into a healthcare system. I went to school in a school system. When I went to NC State as an undergraduate, I participated in the UNC college system. Everything is a system. The way we really see systems is in athletics. All right? And so I was glad to hear you talk a little bit about golf, because I'm a big sports fan. So I talk about sports a lot. If you don't like sports, it's okay, because it's really not about the sport. It's about performance and the person. Okay? When you play sports, you play on a certain size field. All right? You use a certain type of ball. There are rules. And when you know the rules, what does it allow you to do? Play better. When I know the rules, I play better. So there's a skill set for being a dream maker. I want to talk a little bit about the skill set. Now, there are, one of the things that I learned when I was working on my dissertation is they make you go out and do a survey of the literature. All right, that's everything on your topic that ever existed. Why do you do that? Well, it allows you to see where the holes are, and then your dissertation fills in the gap. So anytime I want to understand something, I go out and I read everything that exists about it, and then funnel it down into a system. There's lots of books out there about talent. And what it says is this. First of all, it takes 10,000 hours to be a master. When I read that, I laughed. Because for a lawyer, I had to practice 7 years before they'd let me be a partner in the law firm. What did that give me? My 10,000 hours. Doctors, they have to be residents. They have to do a specialization. You know what they're getting? They're getting their 10,000 hours. And it's not just any 10,000 hours. It's 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, which is a special type of practice. And that deliberate practice is a type of practice that allows you to course correct in the moment when you make a mistake. Have you ever watched basketball practice when they're running a play? Coach goes, wait, stop, right there. Okay, you weren't in position. They correct it and they run it again. They allow you to course correct in the moment, and that deliberate practice allows you to be a much better player or whatever you're doing, okay? I want to talk about some of those people who have 10,000 hours. You've heard of child prodigies. Anybody can think of a child prodigy? Can you name one? Go ahead. Great example. Everybody thinks Mozart was a prodigy. Do you know what? His father was a music teacher. He got his 10,000 hours in before he was 12. That's why he was amazing in his 20s. So child prodigies really are people who got their 10,000 hours in before they were teens. My father had a psychology practice, and from the time I was 7, I had to be his office assistant, which I absolutely hated. When I got into my 40s, do you know what I realized? I had 10,000 hours of human watching. I got my 10,000 hours in of people work, and so I leverage that now, and that's what makes me a really good life coach, is I've seen those 10,000 hours up close and personal. So you got deliberate practice as well. You also are in a special program. Okay, the skill set is you're in a special program. And that means you're in a place where there's 3 zones. There's the learning zone, there's the comfort zone, and there's the panic zone. Okay? Panic zone is when you're in so over your head you can't pay attention, you can't learn, can't listen. Okay? Comfort zone is, well, you know, I'm good at this. Yeah, I'm not even thinking about it, I'm just doing it without really thinking about it. The learning zone is where you stretch yourself. Okay? The learning zone is where you're in a little bit over your head, but enough to stretch yourself, but not enough to make you panic. Okay? So you want to be in the learning zone, all right? If you're here at Furnitureland South, let's translate that into good news for you. Okay, maybe your name wasn't on this list. Okay? You want to get in a special program, my advice is to ask one of these people to mentor you, give you 1 hour a week, and share 2 things with you. Share organizational knowledge and share individual sales knowledge. What are my experiences? What are my 10,000 hours that make me get my name up here? Okay? Because what we've learned is there is one way to circumvent the 10,000 hours of mastery. And that's if you understand the system. And there are 2 things in the system. There's leverage points and there's structural conflicts. Leverage points are places where you know that you can press the accelerator. It's information that lets you hit the gas pedal so you can shoot forward. Structural conflicts are tension. They hold you where you are. They nail your foot to the floor. If you are in the same place sales-wise you were in a year ago or 3 years ago, you're probably caught in some structural conflict. Okay? And you can't keep doing what you've always been doing because let me tell you, it ain't working. If you're in the same place you were in a year ago, you got a structural conflict going on. Okay? So pick somebody who's up here and ask them to be your mentor. Ask them to share organizational knowledge that they leverage for sales and what is their individual knowledge that they can share with you. Okay? Because mentoring coaching is part of that special program where you're stretching yourself. You're in that learning area. Okay? So that's the skill set. And that's it in a really short format because Ken said I had to stop at 9 o'clock if you didn't like me. I could go past 9 o'clock if you like me, okay? So I'm trying to condense all this down to get there by 9 o'clock, and then we can raise your hands, and if you like me, I'll go back and tell all the stories I had lined up, okay? The second piece is mindset. There is a mindset to peak performance. And what I've done is I've read all the information, and I've come down to 3 pieces that will help you with the mindset, all right? I call it the Great Life Trilogy, all right? In 2010, I have been on a personal journey since my 3 favorite relatives in my life, my father, my aunt, and my uncle, died of cancer in 3 short years. There's nothing like that will make you go, is there really a God that would do this to me? Why am I here? And is this all there is? Is this all there is? There's got to be more. So I set off on this long journey to understand myself and why am I here. And as a result of that, I thought myself into a brain freeze. I read myself into a brain freeze. Most people would go into therapy. No, I spent $25,000 at Barnes & Noble's, Borders, Walden Books, and going to self-development seminars trying to figure out who I am. What I came to is that I thought about the 2 most compelling life questions known to man and woman. 1, why am I here? 2, who am I? I think there's a 3rd question in that conversation. Who can I be? And I call that the Great Life Trilogy. And peak performers are able to answer, who am I, why am I here, and who can I be? We're going to focus on who am I, all right? And what I've done is I've created the system for helping you understand who am I. Now I like to talk about sports because we see people live so bigly in sports because it's always on TV. You don't see business leaders live big on TV. You don't see community activists live big on TV because the TV cameras don't follow them. So yeah, I use a lot of sports analogies. So I want to talk about who lives big. Who's a peak performer? Well, Phil Jackson. He's a big peak performer. Tony Dungy, big peak performer. Vince Lombardi, big peak performer. How many people here know who Vince Lombardi is? Okay. Vince Lombardi, and I want to focus on Vince, and I'll tell you why. I think the best peak performers not only live at the edge of who they can be, but they also get other people to live at the edge of who they can be. Vince Lombardi was a master at getting people to live at the edge of who they can be. He played in 6 championships. At that time they called them world championships. He won 5 of 6. 2 of those were the first 2 Super Bowls. All right? He's considered the most amazing, most profound, most whatever adjective you want to use coach in professional football. He won 105 times, coached 10 years, 9 for the Green Bay Packers, 1 for the Washington Redskins. When I started understanding that Vince Lombardi was a peak performer, I went and bought all 35 books that was ever written about him, or however many it is, and I read them all. And I discovered that he had a system for understanding who am I. And his first rule in the system of who am I is know yourself. You can't change something you don't understand. You have to know yourself. There's 3 parts to it. If you want to answer who am I, the first thing you have to know is what are my top 5 values? Raise your hand if you can recite with confidence for me your top 5 values. All right, got one person raising their hand. That's not unusual. How can we make decisions about who we are if we don't know who we are? Vince Lombardi said every decision should be made from your personal bedrock. Guess what our challenge is? We don't know what that is. We don't have a comprehensive gut level of who am I. Okay? So one of the things I want to do this morning is I want to help you learn your 5 values. All right? Because that drives 75% of the behavior you engage in the course of a day. So you're doing stuff and you don't even know why you're doing it. If you look in your packet, the 3rd page, it lists values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then in the next 5 to 7 pages, some of them are printed double-sided, some aren't. There are a list of approximately 50 values. And what I want you to do is just take 5 minutes, because believe me, 90% of you will be able to do it in 5 minutes. Start eliminating values that don't speak to you until you get to your top 5.